The pain is eternal. But 10 years have passed, and we still cannot begin to live. We continue to live, but the pain does not go away. These are the words of the mother of Jyoti Singh, of a young Indian girl. Jyoti Singh was born on May 10, 1989 in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Her parents Badrinath Singh and Asha Devi got married, and soon after the girl was born she had a brother. Later the family was replenished with a third and last child. Growing up in a rural area, Jyoti and her siblings experienced hardship and poverty in their early years. Due to her low income, her father Badrinath had to work several jobs to support his wife and children. However, one day he decided to change his life and went to Delhi, the capital of the country, with his loved ones and many other compatriots. Soon everything went according to plan when he was hired as a baggage handler at the airport. However, he was motivated by more than just the need to support his family. In his early years he was melancholic and faced financial problems that prevented him from going to a good school. He worked without a break, sometimes even in 2 shifts, to prevent such a fate for his children. However, he never lost sight of his ultimate goal to be able to send his children to prestigious schools and thus give them good education. A father felt he was on the right track after successfully enrolling his 3 children in a newly opened public school. Jyoti was the first student to be admitted to the school. Soon another student, Bagasan, arrived at the institution. In addition to being the first girls to enter school, they shared physical characteristics such as short stature and long, voluminous hair. Somehow, these serendipitous events led to the development of a beautiful and sincere friendship from Jyoti's early days in primary school, where she proved herself to be an exceptional student. She began teaching other children subjects such as arithmetic and English because she had excellent academic performance. She also took on the role of tutor to her younger brothers at home. When she wasn't studying, she was often seen watching the 2 of them. After some time, the girl told her parents that she wanted to become a doctor because she wanted to serve the most needy people in her country. Jyoti wanted to ensure universal access to healthcare. Initially, her parents believed that such a career would be too ambitious and unattainable. Jyoti understood that her father was saving money for her upcoming wedding, especially considering her social status, but she encouraged him to put that amount aside to pay for her education. The father was overcome with pride when he remembered the hard days at work, all the struggle, and the day when he first held his daughter in his arms. Now his daughter has become a woman striving to become independent and successful. The man accepted this offer to help her in the future, and even decided to sell a small piece of land in his hometown. However, Badrinath's family had a different opinion. In other words, they felt that the family's meager resources would be wasted and that such actions were merely the product of irrational desires. However, Jyoti's parents, despite the disputes, firmly adhered to their opinion that this would be better for their daughter. Jyoti was an exceptionally smart and kind girl who fulfilled her parents' dreams. But in 2008, after graduating from school, Jyoti came to terms with the harsh truth. She was unable to pay for her medical education despite her father's best efforts. But instead of giving up, she took it upon herself to find a replacement. As a result, she discovered an institution offering training in physical therapy that was 5 hours' drive from Delhi, and the tuition fees were significantly lower. Moreover, the training program lasted only 4 years. Jyoti saw this was her opportunity and acted quickly by submitting her applications and adopting a more modern approach to her college studies. She no longer wore skirts and preferred jeans, high heels and blouses. But this was not the only thing that changed in her. She also developed less conservative views, an autonomous point of view, and a strong self-confidence. At some point, Jyoti realized that she would agree to marry only an educated man. When Jyoti visited Delhi, she continued to act completely carefree with her best friend. Their walks were the highlight of their visits. They loved long walks in shopping malls and had similar tastes in clothes. In front of the shelves and display cases, Jyoti felt most in tune with her beloved existence and farthest from her previous world. Subsequently, Jyoti got a job at an international call center working the night shift. She slept only 3 to 4 hours a day during a family holiday in 2010. Through her social network, the girl met Avindra Pratap Pandey, a man born in 1984 in Uttar Pradesh. Avindra was a computer engineer working in business. The names of his parents are unknown, but I managed to find out that they were in the highest caste of India. He and Jyoti had different personalities. While her life force seemed limitless, he was more reserved, but their differences did not stop them from becoming wonderful friends. When Jyoti's holidays ended, she had to return to complete her education. They kept in touch through video calls, and sometimes these discussions lasted for many. When 2012 came to an end and Jodi was returning to Delhi to complete her studies, she planned to do an internship at a nearby hospital. The internship was scheduled to begin on Monday, December 12th of that year. The previous day, on Sunday, December 16th around 1:30 p.m., Jodi called Avindra and asked if they could meet at a shopping center which was 2 hours away. The girl was excited that she would finally be able to talk to her friend in person and maybe go to the movies. Jodi prepared tea for the whole family, told her parents what she planned to do, and then said goodbye to them. Later, she and Avindra walked together in a shopping center, and there was no excitement between them. They talked and laughed, after which they went shopping and, at her request, went to the cinema. When the show ended, they decided to go home. They were looking for a taxi that could take them straight there because they did not want to go to Jodi's house. After that, they came to the bus stop in the hope of finding another taxi or bus that would take them home. At the same time, in a poor neighborhood in South Delhi, 34-year-old Ram Singh and his 20-year-old younger brother Mukesh were organizing a Sunday party. They both drove school buses and were from Rajasthan. However, in addition to this, Rama struggled with alcoholism and had a short temper. Ram and his friends couldn't think of anything better than to get on a school bus that stands out with its white color and go to a party. The group they usually met with, whose reputation was not particularly respected in their area, consisted of 28-year-old Akshay Thakur and a 17-year-old teenager whose name is unknown due to his age. They were allegedly just trying to have fun. While they were walking, they were joined by two other men, Pawan Gupta, a 19-year-old fruit seller, and Dinesh Sharma, who was 20 years old and worked as a cleaner at a gym. Unfortunately, fate decreed that they stopped at a bus stop where Jodi and her friend were. Ram saw them and offered to give them a ride, but Avindra and Jodi had doubts and could not decide. The key fact was that Jodi's mother was worried that it was too late to go out. She told her about it. Jodi did not want her mother to worry, so she convinced Avindra to agree to the trip. When the bus started moving, the other four members of the group pretended to be passengers and Mukesh took money from them for the fare. Avindra felt that something was wrong because they deviated from the planned path. However, as soon as he told Ram about this, the men shouted at him and began insulting Jodi. Naturally, this angered Avindra and they fought. Avindra started beating everyone to such an extent that he lost consciousness, after which Ram started the bus again. Ram turned off the lights in the bus. Then it was Jodi's turn. As soon as they pulled her back, they began to beat her brutally. The attackers were armed with an iron rod, but this seemed insufficient to them, so they took turns raping the girl. Jodi resisted as best she could, even biting them, but she was at a disadvantage. When Ram stopped the bus an hour later, he decided to throw the couple out of the compartment. Soon the gang abandoned them near the highway and thought that they would not survive in the pitch night. Avindra was aware of this, but the energy completely left his body. Nevertheless, Avindra managed to get up, although with extraordinary difficulty. He was badly injured and began begging oncoming cars for help. For about 30 minutes not a single car stopped to help, and in the end they got so worried. At this point, the police were called and they were both taken to the hospital where they received medical attention. When the investigation team led by a police officer arrived at the scene, Avindra provided the police with information about the unique characteristics of the bus. He claimed that the only information they had at that time was that it was a white bus with yellow curtains and red seat covers. In addition, based on the young man's testimony, investigators were able to identify photographs of the attackers. Upon returning to their area, the group members decided not to provide any information and, in the event of police intervention, not to name anyone. After that, one of them and a 17-year-old teenager removed the bus. They also divided Jodi's things, distributed clothes and mobile phones, and everyone went home. At the same time, the agony of Jodi's parents turned into hopelessness. Their daughter's long absence was unusual, especially for this period of time. Shortly after midnight they received a call from the police, who tried to downplay the situation by saying it was an accident. However, when the girl's father arrived at the hospital, he was greeted by a horrifying scene that he could not believe. Jodi had internal and external injuries and required several surgeries due to the severity of her. The girl's condition was critical, and since she only had 5% of her intestines left, the attending surgeon informed the family that her chances of recovery were significantly reduced. He expressed surprise at the severity of her injuries, calling them the worst he had seen in his career. The fact that the bus was white became a serious obstacle because there are too many white buses in Delhi. However, after analyzing the color of the seats and curtains, the team of detectives managed to reduce the number of possible buses to 300. Despite the fact that Jyoti did not feel well, she decided to talk to the police. She was calm and ready to answer questions. This helped the authorities gather more information about the incident, and this was considerable information since the girl was able to identify some of the perpetrators. A few hours later, Avindra was questioned again at this location. It was then that he remembered another important detail. The back door was closed. Armed with this important information, police began studying footage from city surveillance cameras. A bus was photographed that matched the description provided by the wind camera and had a distinctive color and cover design. Having all this evidence, they assumed that perhaps it was the same bus. When Avindra was shown the video taken by a camera aimed at the road, he confirmed this information. On December 18, 2012, police went to the bus stop where Jyoti and Avindra boarded and spoke to several transporters to find out that the bus was being used to transport children to school in South Delhi. Unfortunately, the drivers of the car were not at the scene at the time. However, in the afternoon, the police received additional information. A bus similar to the one they were tracking was parked near Delhi. When they reached the place, they saw only Ram, and although he tried to escape, it was not possible because the bus was confiscated. Avindra identified him, and all that remained was to find additional participants in the crime. In addition, since one of the victims' phones was in working order, text messages were sent to the phones that the attackers took from them. On December 18, 2012 after the police managed to find Mikesh, bloody clothes and an iron pond, which was used as a weapon, were discovered. Thanks to various leads, the remaining criminals also turned out to be quite easy to find. Since they knew that there was a significant amount of evidence against them, all the suspects confessed in court and were subsequently placed under arrest. Meanwhile, Jyoti developed a host of problems such as pneumonia, stomach infections and brain damage, and her condition worsened despite 4 more surgeries. In the hope that she would receive better care elsewhere, the government decided to transfer her to another hospital in Singapore. Unfortunately, during the 6-hour flight, Jyoti suffered a cardiac arrest and fell into a coma. The doctors did everything they could to bring her back to consciousness, but it was too late. Jyoti passed away on December 29, 2012, 13 days after the extension. On January 2, 2013, the Chief Justice of India began a fast-track trial in which the men were formally charged with rape and murder, all 5 facing the death penalty. The 6th attacker was charged separately at trial because he was a child. The Juvenile Justice Board sentenced the accused teenager to 3 years in a reform school. This decision caused a lot of controversy as many people, including Jyoti's parents, believed that the punishment had nothing to do with his actions and wanted the young man to be prosecuted as an adult. During the trial on March 11, 2013, Ram lost his life while in prison. After several more months of trials and hearings, the remaining 4 accused were found guilty of attempted murder of Avindra, destruction of evidence, rape and murder of Jyoti Singh. 3 days later, the men were sentenced to death despite repeated attempts by prisoners to appeal. The sentences remained the same. After the tragedy, 3 years later, the court approved the release of the minor. The guy began to live a seemingly normal life. Under a new pseudonym, he works as a cook outside the city. The last 4 accused were executed on March 20, 2020. Jyoti's parents were happy and celebrated, and the parents of the accused cried watching their loved ones being taken away. Friends, write your opinion in the comments, and also subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos. Thank you all.